Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you. This is Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Uyi Agmofwegwe, and we are always delighted and find pleasure in welcoming you to Global Morning. It's the Wednesday's edition, midweek, if you like, you should call it. But the important thing is we're here to kickstart great conversations for you and just help you create perspectives and give you insights into the big stories happening around us. I was having a conversation a while ago, off camera by the way, with the lady to my left, whose introduction will be done by herself, by the way, about certain issues in the industry and all of that. Maybe we can have it some time to talk about that later. But first of all, Queen Agaba, it is great to see you on the show again today after some 24 hours in between.
It's always a pleasure being on the show with you as well. Like you rightly said, 24 hours.
In between,
48
yes.
hours in between.
Well,
it's 24
so
hours.
in between, yeah, because we were last year on Monday, went here yesterday. Today we're back here.
We're back here, anchoring the morning show.
Right.
Of course, bringing to our viewers the best and the highlights of all that is happening in and around the country,
Right.
Nigeria, and the world at large. It's a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, but then we had to just help you find sense in some of the happenings around us right now. This week in itself has started with quite a number of events as well, whether they're political, economic, or social, but we'll help you just find a path to understanding all of these issues this morning. We'll also bring you the AM news at top of the hour, and then, of course, we have the papers for you, big headlines. There was a story I was reading on the Punch newspaper in We As of Today about a young boy who is said to be 19, arrested by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission somewhere around the Lekki area of Lagos State for the reason I'm sure you already assumed I'm going to talk about, for cybercrime. But for me, the real story is not that he was arrested for an offense related to cybercrime. Is the fact that the judge, Justice Faji, looks at the young boy and says, who accompanied you to the court? And the guy says, my friend. So he points to someone who is said to have his hair plaited. All right, a guy. And the judge says, well, your parents? He says, well, I have a mom who doesn't even live in Lagos. She lives in Onitsha, Anambra State, somewhere in the eastern part of the country. So the judge goes ahead to say, well, I want to see your mom in court, right? Your mom was being caught on 1st of November, which happens to be Friday, by the way, and your mom must bring with her identification documents. You see, for me, the lesson I learned from that is the judge brought humanity, all right, to the issue of this case, this very matter in front of him, not just because the idea is to, I mean, the young man had already pled guilty, all right, so naturally one would expect the next thing will be sentencing, but the judge stretches it beyond that to say, I'd like to see you more because you are a teenager, give or take, and to think that you are in court over an issue this serious, where you are being prosecuted by an agency such as the EFCC, and nobody from your family could come with you to court aside this friend of yours who has his hair plaited in court this morning, it means there's more to this case than we can release it. Therefore, I'd like to see a more in court on Friday. You see, I look at all of that and I'm thinking off the top of my head, amongst other things, the message this judge is trying to send is to say that we missed it at the level of parenting, at the level of family, and of course those core values that are closely associated with family.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Particularly because no member of his family was present.
Right.
To accompany him to the courts, something as serious as that requires you, being remanded. And then for such a crime as this, sometimes when we hear in the news, or we watch the news and see young boys, young children, these days, we hear in certain parts of the country, parents pay for their children to learn fraudulent activities.
Right.
You see, they are going to Yahoo School, just how we have
academies for different professions.
Yeah, different professions. We hear of, you see how things have just turned around, upside down. That's the society we found ourselves in, because a lot of parents have failed at the level of parenting. A lot of families have, scattered at that level because of the level of parenting that they found themselves in. And for each family, a family represents a fraction of the society.
That's right.
And so when we continue to have more families who have failed at parenting, you can tell that society is in doom. And so in a certain in a certain part of the country, parents pay and say, take. How we see it normal for children to go to piano classes, for children to go to
dance classes,
ballet classes, after lessons, and parents will pay exorbitant amount of money just so that their children can gain knowledge that will be useful to them in the future, now and in the future, that will help them be morally sound and otherwise. Other parents are paying for their children to learn fraudulent activities because what has been mirrored to them. We cannot attribute it to poverty now. We cannot say it is because the country is where it is today that people are paying for their children to go and learn fraudulent. It's a taboo. It used to be a taboo. It still should be a taboo.
It used to be even a thing of shame.
A thing of shame when your child is caught, because that's stealing. Whether it's done online, whether it's done with a laptop or with a phone, it's same thing as picking pockets in the market, where people burn people down. But these days, when people do fraudulent activities, they rob their fellow man online, or they do whatever it is that they do that is wrong to get money. They are celebrated, thrown red carpets, treated differently. And so these young boys, they get married, or even if they don't get married, they have children out of wedlock, have baby mamas who give them children. And their whole family starts again. So you want to wonder, what is being passed on? What is the legacy that is being passed on to these children that are born out of wedlock or born by these fraudulent boys? It is the same thing. And so it continues. That culture of moral decadence continues. And so we now begin to have a society. That's why you see that, this place where we predominantly have Yahoo boys, boys that are into fraudulent activities, you see that society, because a culture has been birthed. You now hear that, so and so people from so place, once you even we are into Yahoo, you're a big guy in the community, you give you chieftaincy title and all that, because it's become a thing that is now celebrated. So the question we should be asking now is, this is just an example. The case of this young boy who does not have his parents in court with him, this 19-year-old boy who, take for instance, Hush Puppy.
That's a very classical case.
He was celebrated. Nobody wanted to know. In fact, a lot of people knew his source of income, but they did not care.
Right.
To probe further until, he went international and, he was some people even make the claim that if he was arrested in Nigeria here, just like the case of Bobrisky, where he was given a spare apartment outside of prison.
Well, the authorities now say that it was privileges he had.
So it's funny when law enforcement agencies, the people that were even supposed to look up to, that would help us uphold standards, are making compromises. The question we should be asking is, where do we go from here?
Right.
How do we begin to celebrate a 19-year-old? I tell you that maybe his family was even celebrating him. Parents these days, children bring expensive gifts to the house, expensive cars, expensive items, expensive phones. Let us even begin by asking, how many parents ask their children, who gave you this phone? For young girls who go to school, we've had cases, very traumatizing cases of young girls who were killed by their boyfriends in universities.
Right.
You cannot tell me that as a parent, your child, you do not know certain activities that your children have been involved in. We read stories, sometimes the parents even know the boyfriends of these girls. But do you probe further? She brings items, she brings gifts, she brings telephones, hairs, particularly wigs. We know how expensive wigs are.
Right.
Some wigs sell for as much as 1 million naira.
Especially when you born straight.
Born straight.
Right.
And you see young girls who are in university who do not have consistent source of income or any source of income that you can hold them to say that, okay, this thing can actually afford you a hair of 1 million naira. And you're not questioning, you're not asking. And tomorrow we just hear of the sudden disappearance of these young girls.
And then we blame it on society, we blame it on the devil. Like you were saying, Queen, I know a time there was when if a student had money at all, the assumption was that it was their pocket money, which obviously must have come from either their biological parents or those who were responsible for their education.
Absolutely.
But today that has changed. One time I was looking at a particular federal university and I realized that some of the boys there, from what I came to learn about them, had more money than the VC of the school. All right. I mean, I say this without missing words. They had more money than the VC of the school because when you look at the cars they drive, some of them don't even have one car.
Exactly.
You look at the market value of those cars. These are Japanese cars, first grade. These are American specs of SUVs, salon cars. These are German cars. These are boys between ages 19 and 23. You see the things they buy, the phones they use, they have multiple devices. Some of them sell for an average of 1.6, 1.8 million. Some of the things they do just literally scare you. And you look at them, they're between 200 and 300 level engineering or somewhere in the social sciences and stuff like that. And then you're asking yourself, do they really need this school? Do they really need this education that they are supposedly here to get?
And they buy certificates.
Exactly. And for some of them, you'll be shocked the assumption their parents have of them. And somebody said, you have a 17, 18-year-old daughter who is in the university. And as a mom, you innocently believe that she's somewhere on her bed at 9 p.m. sleeping, all right, because she must have had a very demanding day in school, several lectures, running here and there. Of course, you know how the Nigerian Public University can be very stressful and all of that. Not only that your daughter is supposed to be somewhere, let's say in Delta State or in those states, is just cooling off or chilling, as they say, in Abuja or somewhere in Lagos or even outside of Nigeria. Some parents will literally have their hearts sink if they knew a quarter of some of the things their children are up to in school, supposedly in school. But how much can we talk about all of these things? Again, this case in Lagos is just an eye-opener to show how that we cannot continue to have a society that has an academy, quote unquote, for people to learn how to scam others. Look at what the US has done again recently. I mean, of course, we've seen a potpourri of these cases. Just this month, for example, they've been able to extradite a bunch of Nigerians with British citizenship from the UK to the US, across places like Texas and North Carolina. What are their offenses? The same cybercrime. Business email compromise here and there at the point of them who try to, they had successfully moved upwards of $1.9 million from the funds of a university somewhere in North Carolina. All right, this is a university that was trying to expand its campus, its facilities by starting a project. So what did they do? They looked for some of these construction companies that were working for this university to be able to move this money. The details are there. Very technical and all of that. But two things for me really stick out, Queen. The first is that Nigeria, again, we can't say this enough, is blessed with people who are tremendously ingenious, whether it's in tech, in business, in whatever field it is. All right, but how we deploy this is what gives us real concern. The second is that these incidences create the impression across the world that Nigeria is the citadel of scam, which is not the truth, because these same people, from what we have come to hear, even from the Department of Justice in the US, have allies across the world, from America to Europe to Asia. All right, but then on our part, we must be seen to be doing our bits as parents, as governments, as society, as institutions and agencies of government. All right, in such a way that we continue to encourage people who are doing well, because whether you like it or not, we must have a stick and carrot approach to these things. We've seen people in this country who designed drones, designed some very innovative items. Nobody gave them a chance. Nobody gave them a support of any kind. What are we doing with those people? So tomorrow they abuse that knowledge, all right? They compromise or corrupt that competence, that capacity, and we say, well, they took to crime. Because life does not allow for vacuum. People must use whatever talent they've got to get to whatever end that is so desired.
Absolutely. We must begin to reward genuine efforts, no matter how little.
Right.
Take, for instance, a first-class graduate in a federal university. We know how rigorous, the rigorous process
for you to come up top of your class.
Top of your class in such universities, and the privileges that you do not enjoy.
Right.
Those privileges.
Deny yourself.
And then you must have honestly been tested and trusted for you to earn a first class in such universities. What do we reward them with? How are they celebrated? We've heard of cases where first class students are given 10,000 naira in envelopes. And then we reward people who go to reality TV shows and,
so as high as 100 million. SUV.
100 million naira. An SUV, what have they done?
Contract.
Displayed foolishness, embarrassed the society, embarrassed their families, embarrassed their friends, walked around naked.
Set bad examples.
Insulted people, used all forms of foul languages. And we even see government officials going as much as endorsing them, giving them gifts, sending them gifts.
And the government claiming the schedule to receive them.
So young people are motivated by what they see.
Right.
Motivated, most importantly, by rewards. How are these people rewarded?
Yeah.
You see a lot of people are not even interested in going to school again. After all, once I'm done with my secondary school, when you ask young people, go to the street and ask young people, what do you want to be?
And let them speak from their hearts.
You hear a lot of funny answers. Back then when we were growing up, when you ask a young person, what do you want to be in the future? Yeah, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be this. I want to inspire young people when I grow up. I want to do this. These days, when you ask young people what they want to be, you will be surprised at the answers you will get. Most people go as far as confidently telling you they want to be Yahoo boys.
Right, and they are not actually. I mean, it doesn't prick their conscience.
It doesn't.
Say that.
No, it doesn't, because society doesn't make it look that way. Because they see how Yahoo boys are celebrated.
Right.
They see the reward system. They see what they do, how they live freely. They live freely. Police, in most cases, cannot even apprehend them because these policemen are compromised as well. So there is a society that we found ourselves in. So we must begin to, as a matter of urgency, reward genuine effort.
Right.
And also apprehend those who are found wanting.
And make examples of them in the eye of the law.
And paint what is bad as bad and not celebrate evil. Hence, we will be building a society that will be headed for doom, and God forbid that.
All right. Well, we're going to do our part to avert that. Let's take a quick break, everyone. Big stories across national dailies await you once we return. Do stay with us. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Get in on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Let's begin with the leadership newspaper, everyone. Above the nameplate, first off, with a picture of Chief Adebayo Adelabu, Minister of Power here, says we will restore power to North in 5 days. That's the TCN. Actually, he made this statement yesterday. We will restore power to North in 5 days. We see the agitation that has erupted there on account of the power outage cutting across that entire region, particularly the northeast and the northwest. And then a picture of Governor of Kano here, Abba Yusuf. It says Kano approves 71,000 naira minimum wage. Okay, so Kano has joined one of the states now that recently approved a minimum wage. Okay, then what else do we have? Let's take a look at something else for you here. The big story real quick on the front page of the leadership says why Nigerian deserves UN Security Council seats. That's Biden, the US president, talking. You can read details for yourself on page 6. All right, then here says fuel crisis hold marketers responsible for long queues. That's Dangote. The man says his refinery has 50 million liters of fuel, so he still can't understand the reason marketers would rather import. Yesterday, we understand himself, Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, who doubles as Minister of, Coordinating Minister of the Economy, as well as the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mr. Melekeri, had a meeting with the president. But you can tell, given Dangote's body language and his demeanor, that all is not well just yet. So the question is, what can we do to fix this? Because the man says, if I'm allowed to, as it were, offload the 50 million liters of fuel that we have available at my facility, it will address totally this issue of scarcity. So why are we still importing when Dangote has it just at our backyard? Okay, let's see something else for you. Only Lagos Rivers can generate substantial IGR. That was a budget there. It's a civic platform that tracks budgetary elements. It says only Lagos Rivers can generate substantial IGR. So the question is, what happens with other states? Well, they wait for allocation for the most part. Okay, then this story here has a few riders. Fuel crisis hold marketers responsible for long queues. Dangote. The first rider says refinery ready for 30 million liters daily supply. The NMDPRA, that is the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, says the country consumes 15 million liters of fuel every day. Dangote now boasts 30 million liters daily supply. So that's more than half this reported consumption. So what are we doing to address this, to close this gap, leveraging the Dangote refinery as a very vital resource in this regard? Again, NNPC raises pump price adjustments due to market dynamics. That's marketers. Ghana eyes fuel imports from Dangote refinery. It will be a shame if at the end of the day we have Ghana importing fuel from Dangote and Nigerians back at home cannot enjoy the same resource. It means it's just going to be more like our power sector, where you hear that there are neighbors around us, you know, Cameroon, Benin Republic, Niger, and Chad enjoying power supply from Nigeria, but Nigerians are
we have epileptic power.
Exactly, are dealing with epileptic power system in this country with, I mean, characterized by incessant collapse of the national grid. If you take a look at the left end of the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning, it says scores killed in Edo cults war. Those details, as nasty as they are on page 7 of today's issue of the Leadership newspaper. Solala Olumese writes on U.S. election for leadership. You can read the article on 19. Reps probe member over assault on boat driver. You know, when this issue happened, some people have said on social media, Queen, that look, this is going to go the way of the other similar level of counseling. He has asked Nigerians to walk him through, support him through this period and all that. I think, I mean, this is my opinion, I think this is commendable, as it should be.
Yes.
All right. I know, of course, there are going to be those who will say, let's recall him from House of Reps. He's not fit to be an official. Maybe that's a conversation on a higher level. But at this point, I think the man has done what is required, what he should be doing ordinarily. And the man has said that he was dealing with personal issues that led to that kind of outburst that ought not to have been in the first instance. The man has self-criticized. But is that enough?
Well, I think that we've had enough of lawmakers setting themselves as gods,
in this country,
gods, mini gods in this country. That statement shouldn't have been found coming out or heard coming out from his mouth to someone as that boat driver. I mean, he's a boat driver. He has a package for you, which you are to either send someone to come pick it up or come out yourself to come pick it up.
And that's the protocol.
Yes, you don't ask a boat driver to deliver in your house. It's really offensive. And like that is not even enough. You make it look like it is his responsibility to deliver an item inside your apartment, and you make statements like, I will make you disappear. I think he should be probed further. While I think that we might not necessarily call him out or say he shouldn't be a member of the House of Reps, but maybe stringent measures should be taken or punishment should be given to him, and he should be probed further. We've heard people comment like, how many people has he made disappear like this? Let's look into it, because for you to say such with such level of confidence, say I will make you disappear, make very disrespectful comments to that
about the IG
driver, about and all of that. So it's a call for. I don't think calling him out of the House of Reps is a bad idea. I beg your pardon for my stuttering because of the cold I have. But stringent measures should be taken against him, because that is utterly wrong. But I still commend the House of Reps for probing him further as well. And but I think he has done the right thing by apologizing. Of course, he ought to apologize for making such statements. But I think he should be set as an example so that others will learn. Other people who think that they're God.
Yes, it's quite disturbing, because like Queen just mentioned, on the one hand, you're saying that you can make someone disappear. You may say we are overflogging it, but it is what it is now, because this is human life we're talking about.
Exactly.
What if that had happened and nobody found out, and then we go on air, we go on social media, I would say missing person.
Missing person. How many people have we had?
And then the person who did it is working free. The person who did it is still making laws for us in this country, still representing the constituency somewhere in the east, in Enugu State, and things like that. And you say you can go and tell the IG. You know, the part that really got to me is that's that point where the guy is recording him, and he says to him, "I'm recording you," and the guy says, "Even if you are recording me." And then he comes and even slaps him. And then I think he smashes the phone. That's where the recording ends and all of that. But I think it's a good thing that the video still found its way to the public.
Exactly.
All right. And then you talked about the IG. And I hope the police will not just limit this to the fact that
what's
you
the
mentioned
the IG?
Exactly. That take it to the IG. You shouldn't stop at that. The offense is beyond whatever he has done against or about the IG, right? See, to whom much is given, much is expected. He's a public officer. He was elected by the good people of his constituency somewhere in Enugu State to represent them. I'm not sure when they cast their vote for him last year, this was the kind of representation they expected. On account of that office, you'll become a role model. There's a minimum standard expected of you. A similar thing happened in the UK at around the same time. The political party that produced that member of parliament, that MP, has now asked him to resign.
Exactly.
But I hope APGA, the All Progressives Grand Alliance, the party that produced him a little over a year ago, is towing the same path. All right? Because, like my wife jokingly told me yesterday, she said his party would likely be the first to come out to defend him. When she said that, I was depressed because it's a shame.
It's a shame.
All right, it's not a partisan issue. It's not APC versus PDP or Labour versus APGA. No, it is far beyond that.
That's what has put us where we are.
And that's when the politicians in this country always miss it. They always want to narrow it down to politics to themselves. No, I mean, we can be selfless for a minute. Is this the kind of attitude that people produced by APGA to be members of their to be their representatives on any level? All right, is this the kind of attitude they are expected to exhibit? It's not about APGA, it's about how that political parties must do better. I mean, here on global television, we've taken our time to talk about how that we can't get it right with our political process. If politicians in their respective political parties, A to Z, of course, the parties are A to Z actually, the Zenith Labour Party is the Z of it, all right? If they do not take responsibility for their own internal mechanisms. So if you have people who behave like this within political parties, what kind of politicians are we going to have? What kind of political process are we going to have? All right, because I also receive things like many other Nigerians across this country every day using the same kind of service, the same dispatch service. I have to step out of the office to the gate to pick it up. And I do thank you when I pick it up because it's a service.
It's a service.
Do you understand? So I don't expect them to bring it into the office. And you left room for speculation when you insisted the man should go and bring it to your compound. Some person will now say, how are we sure it was not even a illicit substance? I mean, you left room for that speculation. So that again in itself raises concern around the need to probe further. All right, but hopefully, like we said, there has to be an example because it will appear until stringent measures are taken, very sadly, we don't seem to learn our lessons in this country. Let's just wrap it up on the leadership newspaper. Refs probe member over assault on boat driver. That's where we left off. Then there's this one that says Nigerian observer honors Iradia, Momo, Obaigbena, others. I'm sure those are what they are very much. They are spot on because of the personalities involved. The Nigerian Observer, by the way, has also produced some of these brightest broadcasters and media personalities in this country. We see Iradia here as a professor, as he is now, Professor Tony Iradia, one-time Director General of the NTA, someone who has made his own impacts in the industry in ways that are very substantial and crucial. All right, so you can't take that away. And then you have people like John Moore. Dr. John Moore is the chairman of the Channels Media Group, another person who has spent decades, all right, helping to reshape this industry and something for which those of us coming behind him are very proud. And then you have Obaigbena, who also had cut his teeth at the Observer back then in the Midwest, later Benel State and now Edo States. To be honored, the chairman of the Arise Media Group, owners of the This Day newspaper and Arise Television. And then you have several others. We need to learn how to appreciate ours. A while ago, you were talking about how that is a shame. We have a country where people go for reality shows and embarrass themselves and their families and the country. We reward them handsomely, but people come out in flying colors academically. We behave like we're not seeing them. We will push them further into obscurity. So when we have people like this who have been honored, those we know genuinely, the track records are there. They say the numbers don't lie. All right, they've made their mark in the industry. We must recognize them, and we hope that this recognition across board, across platforms, would continue, because we also have our own MD here, for example, Dr. Ibrahim Biu, who has cut his teeth over time and has made a mark across the world in the media space. We must continue to highlight these people. Otherwise, it will look like we're a society that is not ready to be serious or taken seriously. I'm sure that's what we have this morning from the leadership newspaper. Time to turn to the next paper for you, and that will be the This Day newspaper, and Queen has those headlines.
Absolutely. On the front page of This Day newspaper, we have big story here says, with Naira for crude, Tinubu promises more stability. And we also have the writer there saying, Dangote, our refinery has over 500 million liters of fuel in reserve. And then we have, again, National Oil Company raises pump price of petrol. Onayeko, to fix Nigeria's challenges, Northern elite must fix region's problems. Not too many stories on this day, just above the nameplate of the paper. We also have, in 30 minutes, phone call, Tinubu, Biden seek to deepen partnership in U.S. and Nigeria relations, right there. And these are the stories that we have on the front page of this day. We also have Tinubu gets briefing sale of crude oil to local refineries. And lastly, on this day, TCN targets Sunday to restore power to North, sees insecurity hindering efforts. Let me just highlight a few things as regards TCN and restoring power in the North. It's quite sad that the people in the northern parts of Nigeria have to go through these power outages for this while, which has disrupted businesses and caused them to lose money and vital resources. Take, for instance, people who are into perishables. Aside that, take, for instance, people whose businesses, a lot of businesses revolve around electricity, revolves around power, and they've not been able to acquire money, make money, or even save money as a result of this power outage. And the sad thing now is insecurity. TCN now, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, is saying that insecurity has been the major reason why they've not been able to restore power in the North. And like I always say, that before we talk about, now we're even talking about restoring what was.
We're not saying
building something new. We're not even talking about development. We're talking about restoring what was before. And now insecurity is a major hindrance. How much more the new things that we're inventing, the things that we're trying to, come up with development. No nation will thrive, will develop consistently where there is insecurity. I have said that, and I'll continue to say it until we fix that thing that is paramount. The security of lives and properties of a nation is very pivotal to growth and development. So you don't expect that you will do rail tracks, you do build train stations where security is still a major challenge. You will have vandals who will vandalize those tracks, who will harass people, who will stop trains from moving. And so major efforts that are being put in place, particularly in order, these trains go to Kaduna. These trains are majorly trains that move from Abuja to the north, Abuja to certain areas.
Right.
And now we're not even talking about the north alone. In other parts of Nigeria, we're experiencing same cases of insecurity. Even in the east, that we usually will say, is preferable, or we have lesser cases of insecurity, terrorism, and it's now a competition now.
Right.
We have more cases, increased cases on a daily, in places that you would never have thought about, that you consider safe. Okay, you say, there's crisis in the north, we have issues in the north, so areas, the east, the west is safe. No, that's not the case. Time and time again, particularly in the West, we've had cases of people who have been caught with bags of human skulls. In states like Ogun, or your states that you will say, maybe those cases are not prevalent. So we need to put things in check.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, these are the stories I have on the front page of this day.
Let's turn to a new telegraph for you now. About the nameplate first, just far above the nameplate. Here it says, NIN SIM linkage telephone subscriptions dropped by 62.4 million lines as NCC faults Globacom over inflated figures. States spent 1.2 trillion naira on debt servicing in 2023. And then we'll bring it further down, just beneath the nameplate, one with a picture of Vice President Kashim Shettima. It reads, government media must unite to move Nigeria forward. on pages 2 and 5. That's where you have those details. Media also need bailout in time of economic crisis. Egbemo Day. That conversation is the elephant in the room, actually. Biden backs Nigeria's UN Security Council bid. Thanks Tinubu for releasing Binance executive Gabaraya. Lease rental. Boeing banks to assist Nigerian carriers with credit facilities. That story has a picture of the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Kayamo. Terrorists have taken over Nigeria's largest military camp, says Niger Assembly. This is serious. And then 2 riders. 23 farming communities in Kontagora, Mariga, LGA's displaced residents abducted during recent invasion. Urge government Bago to liaise with military to ensure terrorists are flushed out. What's more, NNPC Limited hikes fuel pump price to 1,025 naira in Lagos, 1,050 naira in Abuja. And then let's see what the 2 riders say. Tinubu promises stability in oil sector with Naira crude deals. Dangote blames marketers for product scarcity. On the right end of the paper, front page, CEO Nasima decries mass exodus of businesses from Nigeria. The writer says NBA calls on Tinubu to end policies worsening hardship. Osun APC suspends Aregbe Shola over alleged anti-party activities. Edo Catholic priests abductors demand 200 million naira ransom.
Here we go again.
Yes, this story is pathetic, and I'm reluctant to say inspiring, somewhere in the middle, and I'll tell you why. So this is a seminary for young priests, and then you have these abductors who come, gunmen invade the whole place, somewhere in the northern part of Edo State, right? And then they're shooting sporadically, as is always the case. They want to take away 2 of the students. These priests, who happens to be the provost of the institution, shows up and says, no, rather than take the 2 students, leave them, let them off, and take me. So that's how they whisk him into the bush. 24 hours later, they will call through to say, we want 200 million naira. All right, what more can we say? 40 aircraft. Nigeria's economy not healthy for new presidential jets. That's the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general election, talking on page 3, apparently in reaction to the calls for a new aircraft to be purchased for Vice President Kashim Shettima. Okay, Senate frowns on military's non-payment of benefits to dead personnel. And then the writer here says, stops petitioners' arrests to screen 7 ministerial nominees today. The second one reads, approves 24.7 billion naira reimbursement for Kebbi Nasarawa Airport. Red Cross raises the alarm over Lassa fever spread in Nigeria. You'll find all of those on page 29 of today's issue of the New Telegraph. And now time to take you to News Direct for those big details, those big headlines for Nigeria News Direct. Queen Agaba will walk us through.
Well, on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, big story there says, don't blame me for fuel queues. Dangote says refinery will end queues if marketers come to lift products. As federal government partners Afrexim Bank for Naira crude transactions. Agritech, right there, just above the nameplate, we have Agritech startups win venture building sport, in FCMB hackathon. Osun APC suspends Aregbe Shola over alleged anti-party activities. Naseni unveils made in Nigeria laptops and tablets. Ekiti Governor presents 375 billion naira budget estimate to State Assembly. And then we have Shettima preaches unity for media, with media for nation building as editors pay Vice President visit. And here we have NNPC Limited targets 3,000 Nigerians in free cancer screening campaign. This is a welcome development. I just to mention that yesterday was the maiden edition of Nigeria's Health Promotion Day, the very first one, which I think is commendable as well by the Ministry of Health. I think that we must begin to promote health, good living, and not necessarily all of the time treatment. Health promotion does not necessarily have to be, treatment and diagnosis and all of that, but also the promotion of healthy living, health, and also a reminder, like the coordinating minister of health and social welfare, Professor Ali Pati, has said that it's a reminder that the Health Promotion Day is a reminder for Nigerians to promote health and as well look into their health, check their vitals, check what is necessary, and all of that. And then we see here that the NNPC is also doing great in that light. Well, these are the stories we have on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct. Our next point of call will be the first news.
Right. Okay, let's keep first things the first. Here, a picture of Asari Dokubo, who has been in the news now for a while. Again, let's see. It says, if you remove Fubara, something will happen. Asari Dokubo warns Wiki. Of course, something always happens, whether Fubara is removed or not. But his point is that Fubara should be allowed to do his job as the governor of River State, and he's saying that the minister of the FCT, Mr. Yenso Wike, should allow Governor Siminalayi Fubara to stay focused on his job. But we see how much of controversy remarks by Mr. Dokubo have raised lately. Okay, then what more do we have here? It says fuel scarcity unnecessary. We have 500 million liters in reserve, Dangote tells NNPC. That's quite a lot of PMS. Osun APC suspends Aregbesola over alleged anti-party actions. Biden, Tinubu discuss Binance executive release, other issues in phone call. Families in limbo, Senate exposes delays in military insurance payments. FG donates 500 million naira to Nigerian Legion. Tinubu hails armed forces role. And then here we read insecurity, that's the kicker. Over 20 schools, 23 markets close in Benue local government. That's according to the chairman of that local government. These are chairmen who were inaugurated just about 3 weeks ago. And now some of them are already dealing with insecurity on a scale that has never before been heard or seen. FG hikes petrol price despite crude price drop. Lagos Task Force declares blocking roads for events illegal. That is long overdue, better late than never, as they say. Incidentally, that's the much we'll bring in from the papers this morning. All right, we'll return after the AM news, which comes up at top of the hour. It will be time to put our conversations on the road for you. Do stay with us, everyone.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television, getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable. with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bonds, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the Global AM News, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nigecomsat. President Bola Tinubu has received a briefing from the Implementation Committee on crude oil and refined product sale in local currency at the Aso Rock Villa, Abuja. The Minister of Finance, Wale Edu, who chaired the committee, led the small delegation comprising the chairman of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, and the group's CEO, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari. In early October, the federal government began implementing a policy to sell crude oil to the Dangote refinery in Naira rather than US dollars. President Bola Tinubu has received a call from President Joe Biden of the United States of America. The call, which took place at about 4 p.m. Nigerian time, lasted for about 30 minutes. This was disclosed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, while briefing State House correspondent about the development. He says the call is about the collaboration between the two countries with regards to law enforcement agencies, as well as the release of one of the suspects of the cryptocurrency exchange company. President Bola Tinubu has launched Nigeria's 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Emblem at the Council Chamber of the Aso Rock Villa, Abuja. He pledged to prioritize the welfare of servicemen and women as they secure the country's territorial integrity and her citizens. Speaking at the brief ceremony, Tinubu acknowledged the role of Nigeria's armed forces as the federal government's first line of defense. He highlighted his administration's commitment to supporting military personnel and honoring those who lost their lives in the line of duty. Tinubu also noted the pivotal role of security in Nigeria's economic future, pledging continued allocation of resources to address security challenges across the country. The National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, has inaugurated the National Campaign Council of the party for the governorship election in Ondo State. The inauguration ceremony held in Akure, the state capital, with Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as chairman and former Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege as secretary. Kike Lomokere has details.
The ceremony was attended by Governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, and his Ekiti State counterpart, Biodu Oyebanji, both of who are chairmen of the subcommittee of the campaign council. Speaking at the event, the national chairman of Progressive Congress, Abdullahi Ganduje, says the national leadership of the APC will leave no stone unturned in its efforts to achieve an overwhelming victory in November 16 governorship election in Ondo State. The chairman further charged members of the committee to put all effort into the campaign to make the party's victory a smooth one.
This geopolitical zone is a task that must be done. Yes, sir. Through democratic means. We urge you to mobilize members of our party, mobilize members of public to ensure that we win this election. We are here to encourage you. We are here to motivate you.
Accepting the role as the chairman of the campaign council, Governor Sanwo-Olu Babajide expressed confidence that the people of Ondo State will vote massively for Governor Lucky Orimisan Ayedatiwa on November 16, 2024.
We want to assure our party, we want to assure all of you here that we do everything within our means, constitutionally, professionally, within the norms of any election, to ensure that a free, fair, highly competitive election and campaign about issues is what we will be doing.
In his address, Governor Lucky Orimisan Ayedatiwa thanked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, acknowledged his leadership and vision, unifying the party and fostering a renewed sense of hope among its members. He says the inauguration of the campaign council is a display of the strength of working together. Highlighting the administration's achievement over the past 10 months, the governor says his administration has constructed over 70 kilometers of rural roads aimed at enhancing access to agricultural area, job creation, including recruitment of workers in critical sectors, as well as enhanced healthcare delivery.
It's a display of the strength of our will when we work together. It is the evidence of our capability, which by God's grace will produce victory on the 16th of November 2024.
However, Governor Aiyedatiwa honored the late Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, the former governor of Ondo State, with a moment of silence to pay respect to the deceased. The high point of the event was the inauguration of the National Campaign Council of All Progressive Congress for the governorship election in Ondo State, and the handing over of the working instrument to the chairman of the council. From Akure, Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
In a landmark effort to raise health awareness, the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare held the Maiden Health Promotion Day in the nation's capital, Abuja. The celebration is meant to draw attention to the power of health promotion as a tool for sustainable health outcomes in Nigeria. Global Television brings you details.
Health Promotion Day included interactive sessions, health screenings, and educational talks on topics around nutrition, physical activity, and managing non-communicable diseases. Representatives from healthcare organizations, NGOs, and community health workers joined the event, rallying around the message of proactive health awareness. Professor Ali Pate, in his keynote address, emphasized that health promotion goes beyond treatment. He also launched the Know Your Numbers campaign, urging Nigerians to regularly check their blood pressure and other vital health markers. He says the initiative is aimed at early detection and prevention, highlighting that many common diseases affecting Nigerians are in fact preventable.
Today, as we celebrate the first National Health Promotion Day, we are putting a stake on the ground that this movement to make Nigeria healthier, to produce health for all Nigerians, is a reality, and that we are committing ourselves to move forward, to take those steps to improve the stock of health, to prevent diseases that can be prevented.
The Ministry of Health hopes that the establishment of Health Promotion Day will help foster a culture of preventive healthcare nationwide, lessening the burden on Nigeria's healthcare system and enhancing well-being across communities. For Global Television, Queen Agaba reporting.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, has advocated a collective approach to health promotion in Nigeria. The minister made this known at a press briefing in commemoration of Health Promotion Day held in Abuja. Global Television brings you details.
Emphasizing the essence of Health Promotion Day, Professor Pate says the day is to promote health and well-being and serves as a reminder for Nigerians to check blood pressure, vitals, and adopt health-conscious behaviors. He urged Nigerians to take steps in maintaining their health, adding that the ministry is determined to save lives, reduce physical and financial pains, as well as promote health for all. The minister described health promotion as the core of the ministry's mission, emphasizing that it is about fostering well-being rather than simply treating illnesses.
Nigeria's people are its assets, and that in the future of this country there's a possibility of prosperity. And that prosperity comes if you have a healthy, well-developed population. And that's why health and well-being of Nigerians has been one of the key pillars of the President's New Reform agenda. And when we set our goals last year, and when the President unveiled his agenda, we said our goal is to save lives, to reduce physical and financial pain, to produce health for all Nigerians.
The minister identified fostering a culture of health consciousness and prevention as essential factors for building a robust, resilient, and healthy Nigeria. For Global Television, Queen Agaba reporting.
The People's Redemption Party, PRP, has asked President Bola Tinubu to rethink his policies. In a statement by the national chairman Falalu Bello, observed that the Tinubu administration persists in a flawed narrative devoid of practical alternatives to solving economic hardship. According to experts, the twin policies of currency devaluation and removal of subsidies have increased hardship for the Nigerian population. The Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, has observed that law enforcement agencies do not share information among themselves. Gaidam said each agency trends to operate independently in this regard rather than collaborating with one another. Speaking at a workshop aimed at fostering inter-agency collaboration on information sharing among law enforcement agencies, the minister warned that with the insecurity affecting many parts of the country, these agencies must abandon the independent approach and prioritize sharing classified information and intelligence to effectively combat insecurity. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has announced that electricity will be restored to northern Nigeria within the next 3 days. Adelabu disclosed this while responding to questions from senators regarding the power outage affecting the region and the recurring grid collapses across the country. The Transmission Company of Nigeria reported an outage in the northeast, northwest, and parts of north-central Nigeria after the 33 kilovolt Ugwaji Api double-circle transmission lines 1 and 2 tripped. According to the executive director of the Independent System Operator, Nafisatu Ali, the Shiroro-Kaduna transmission line supplying power to the north was vandalized by insurgents. The Minister of Defense, Alhaji Mohammed Badaru, has reiterated the federal government's commitment to combating terrorism in West Africa and the continent in general. He made this known in Abuja when he received a delegation from the Islamic Military Counter-Terrorism Coalition from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, led by Major General Mohammed Al-Mohgidi in his office. Badaru says the federal government hoped to achieve this by supporting the coalition, lamenting the continent is bleeding to terrorism. He explained that by supporting the IMCTC, Nigeria reaffirms its dedication to regional and global security, underscoring the importance of collective action in combating terrorism. The Osun State chapter of the All Progressives Congress has announced the suspension of former governor and ex-minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, over allegations of anti-party activities. The decision followed a request from the Ilesha East Local Government APC Executive Committee, which petitioned the state party chairman Tajuddin Lawal to take action against Aregbesola, citing his alleged involvement in actions that undermined the party. The committee, in a letter, accused Aregbesola of promoting factionalism and colluding with opposition parties, among other allegations. The Ogun State government has shut down Obada Grammar School, Obada Idiemi, over the death of an SS2 student of the school, Monday, Arijo. This followed the arrest and suspension of the teacher allegedly responsible for the death of the student last week as a result of corporal punishment. The principal of the school, Mrs. Tamrat Onaolakbo, who was earlier issued a query for allowing corporal punishment to be used on the pupil against the established rules and regulations in the state, has also been suspended. This was contained in a statement by Mr. Leko Adeniro, the Chief Press Secretary to Governor Dapo Abiodun, to journalists. Meanwhile, representatives of the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology were also said to have visited the family of the late student. The Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions and the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities have urged the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, to release their 4 months withheld salaries. This call follows President Bola Tinubu's approval of the payment. The unions firmly dismissed any prospect of further meetings or negotiations with the federal government, emphasizing that the Ministry of Finance should do the needful by disbursing the salaries directly to their members. The SANU president, Mohammed Ibrahim, who made this statement during an appearance on a television program, says the president has given the approval and the Ministry of Education conveyed the approval. Ibrahim revealed that while the government reached out to the striking unions on Monday, the unions were skeptical about any meaningful outcome due to a history of failed negotiations. The Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics and Values, Olushola Fatoba, says the new skills and vocations introduced into school curricula by the federal government are to enhance practical skills and employability. Fatoba, who urged parents and school children to embrace the new developments in the curriculum of primary and junior secondary school, says the initiative is a testament to the fact that President Bola Tinubu has the interest of Nigerian students at heart. The lawmaker, representing Ekiti Central Federal Constituency 1, who spoke in a chat with journalists in Ado Ekiti, however, called for the inclusion of a historical program. We'll take a quick break now. When the Global AM News returns, federal government raises alarm over increased cyber threats. Details of this as well as other stories after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of the Global AM News. In business, the Senate passed a bill to strengthen the Nigeria Deposits Insurance Corporation, NDIC, to safeguard depositors and ensure the stability of financial institutions and promote trust in the banking system. The bill was passed after consideration and adoption of the committee's report presented by Senator Abiru during plenary. The bill gives the president the power to appoint the chairman and members of the board of the NDIC, while the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, which hitherto recommends the appointees, will now concentrate on supervising the corporation. President of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, says his refinery is a solution to the lingering fuel queues across the country. Dangote, flanked by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, and the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, disclosed that at full capacity, his refinery can supply whatever is being consumed in Nigeria. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has stated that the restoration of the Api-Ugaji line has taken long to complete due to insecurity in the area. Speaking during a press briefing, the managing director of TCN, Engineer Abdulaziz Sule, says the engineers working on the line repair work under the surveillance of security personnel leave the site by 6 p.m. He, however, says the line, which was an alternative route to supply power to Kano, Kaduna, and other major cities in the north, will be completed in 2 to 3 days. The National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, says there are increased cyber threats and risks to Nigeria's critical national information infrastructure. He says the growing threats of attacks on telecommunications systems, banking platforms, power and energy grids, as well as military network confronts Nigeria. Ribadu stated these during a workshop on critical national information infrastructure protection and resilience, which the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center in UNSA organized for policymakers and sector regulators. He also listed transportation systems, national databases, elections, digital systems, and other critical assets experiencing such heightened threats adding that it was high time for all stakeholders to join hands to address these issues. On the foreign scene, Russia's defense ministry says its forces have captured the eastern Ukrainian town of Selydev as Moscow's troops advance closer to the key logistics hub of Pokrovsk. The capture of the frontline town of Selydev, located about 18 kilometers southeast of Pokrovsk, is the latest gain for Russia, which is taking large swathes of territory in the Donetsk region in recent months. The announcement came shortly after Moscow claimed the capture of 2 nearby villages and the small town in Ginik, which are located south of Selydev and near the Ukrainian-held industrial town of Kurakhov. At least 93 people are dead after an Israeli airstrike on the town of Beit Lahia in northern Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Rescuers say a 5-story residential building was hit, and videos on social media showed bodies recovered in blankets on the floor. There has been no immediate comment on the strike from Israel's military, which began a new offensive in the area earlier this month after saying Hamas was regrouping there. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, have been operating in northern Gaza during the past 2 weeks, particularly in the areas of Jabalia, Beit Lahia, and Beit Hanun. In sports, Manchester United are reportedly in talks with Portuguese coach Ruben Amorim to become their next manager after sacking Erik ten Hag following a disastrous start to the season. Time finally ran out for the Dutchman ten Hag, with United 14th in the Premier League after a 4th defeat in 9 league games at West Ham on Sunday. Despite spending big in the transfer market this season, one of the world's wealthiest clubs have won only one of their last 8 games in all competitions. Former United striker Ruud van Nistelrooy, a member of Ten Hag's coaching staff, was named interim boss. The Confederation of African Football has picked November 18th for Nigeria's final 2025 African Cup of Nations qualifying match against Rwanda. The match is scheduled for the Godswill Akpabio Stadium, Uyo. This was contained in a statement by the Nigeria Football Federation. The match day 6 encounter will draw the curtain on the race from the Group D for slot at the 35th African Cup of Nations finals to be held in Morocco. Well, that's it on the Global Air News, and it came to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV, channel 365, and free to air on NigeComSat. Kindly follow us across all social media handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching, and see you again.
Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
All right, thank you everyone for staying with us here on Global Morning. Let's begin our first conversation today, which has to do with the election, that is the governorship election in Ondo State, scheduled for 16th of next month, which is November, just less than 3 weeks away. We've seen the developments coming out of Ondo State, across the states on account of this election, off-cycle election, immediately following that of Edo State that happened on the 21st of September. There have been conversations around whether or not this particular election for next month will be different in ways that are specific from what we had seen in Edo State. What exactly are the lessons INEC must have learned or is expected to have learned from the exercise in Edo State, and then find very commendable ways to apply those lessons to the conduct of the poll in Ondo State in a matter of less than 3 weeks. But in the middle of all this, we're now seeing very vehement calls for the removal, some people say the redeployment of the resident electoral commissioner in that state. And they say their reason is that the woman in particular, this lady, is so familiar with the terrain. She grew up there, she knows the system there, so she understands the environment so well. And they are afraid it could create the possibility for a compromise. We have seen that happen in a few other states. Even in Edo State, for example, people had said that the electoral commissioner is someone who is cousins with the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, who was also governor of Rivers State. As a matter of fact, with regards to Edo State election that was conducted in September, there had also been allegation that the commissioner of police was classmates with the FCT minister. So you had two persons who were said to be tied to the FCT minister on account of that election. Now we're seeing that same element playing out in the case of Ondo. What exactly does this mean for INEC? Because we understand yesterday there was a protest by some group taken to INEC head office here in Abuja, and they were received by a very high official of the commission who said INEC will do everything possible to ensure that this issue is resolved within the ambit of the law in the overall interest of Nigerians, and in particular the people of Ondo State. Joining us to find sense this morning in this conversation is Professor Ibrahim Abubakar. Is our own political and security analyst here at Global Television. Prof, again, it's been a while. We last talked on Global Morning. So I'd like to say it's good to see you.
Thank you very much. Welcome from the little break.
Okay. But let's talk about Ondo States. I mean, you are very familiar with how elections are conducted in this country, whether it's general election or off-grid, like we are going to have very soon in Ondo State. You also are familiar with what we saw with Edo States. Now Ondo is following almost, just barely 2 months down the line. What exactly are some of those issues that you think should be very concerning for INEC, for government, for politicians, the political parties, their candidates, and the people of Ondo State?
Well, the truth is that we have not been able to put in place what we call political security. And that is worrisome because we have been transisting since 1999 till today, and that is about 25 years. And if we don't have political security, there is no way we are going to get electoral security, which is a sub to political security. Most of these concerns are being expressed because we have not been able to train personnel on political security. But be as it may, since we cannot get everything right on security, or because of the way we started or where we started from, we should look at the present index. I think I would say on the case of Ondo State and the agitation, the resident electoral commissioner, which people are agitating that should be removed or maybe reassigned or whatever, to me, knowing the terrain assists in so many ways. Because if you know the terrain, you will just also know that, okay, there was no vote in this particular place. She is not the collating officer. She's not, her main job or duty is to make sure electoral materials reach some places. And if you know the terrain, it makes you know that electoral materials were not deployed to some certain areas. They are not telling us now that she is from the state or she has a reason to compromise or she belongs to one particular party. But if we say the call for sympathy comes in, we will say that all over the world, everybody sympathizes with one party or the other.
Including people like the resident electoral commissioners?
We are all human beings. That I am not participating, I don't belong to a party, really don't mean that I don't love some policies of some parties. I may not vote, but then I will also still have it in mind that I will have, but I will not go to the field to say I want to compromise. But I will say if I was opportune to vote, if I was opportune to do anything, I would have preferred the policy of Mr. A than Mr. B, because this is more enduring. Will not make me to go to the street or goes to utter anything. But that is sympathy in one way or the other, because I have that in-depth feeling that one has more classification than the other, or the policy framework of one other is better than the other. So it really did not mean that I have compromised or have done anything of the ordinary. It's just a case of preference and choice. You cannot hide your choice from any way. You always say, well, I can do anything, otherwise I can corrupt myself, I can do anything, but you still have that in-depth feeling on you. It is normal, psychologically or otherwise normal. We cannot debate that.
Are we saying the concerns expressed by these people, I mean, given your narrative now, are not valid? Because it takes a whole lot of work and, I mean, efforts and resources for people to mobilize a protest. I mean, very peaceful as it was yesterday, to INEC office. Makinde, Shey Makinde, the governor of Oyo State, had also made mention of this same issue. Does that not mean that there's something we're not getting right? Because if people can protest about these things, does that not already indicate that there's a concern that should be addressed? Is it not just easy to, much easier to let the person go and redeploy different, since someone already has concern about whether or not the process will be credible, and that in itself naturally would cast doubts on the credibility of INEC?
Well, protest in Nigeria is when it becomes political protest, demeaned to personal interest, not because of general interest. So, are you saying she should be redeployed because she has done something wrong, or she's not acting based on the habit of the laws? Does she compromise the art of INEC? We should look at this in-depthly, because if we continue to say because somebody protests, then we must change, we must effect a change, then we are also going to effect changes every day of our life. Then I have every reason to protest against anybody, then they change that person. So who is going to offer the service if we decide to say we are changing because somebody protests, whether peaceful or not peaceful? We have to look at the protest. Does it have the merit? What are the merits of this protest? or the protest is just politically or just brown because you want somebody who will favor you to be there. You should also look at the case of Edo, when they said the electoral commissioner who was his Wike's cousin. And you also see that the commissioner of police was
his classmate.
Wike is PDP. Did they debate it in PDP? Do they penalize Wike if truly that allegation is right? So Wike still remain in PDP. He has never crossed over to APC, to the best of my knowledge, as at today. So if he was in APC, then we would say, okay, maybe he has used these people to actually do that. But the Edo people should also understand that the same Wike assisted them in 2020 to bring Obaseki. He supported Obaseki till Obaseki won the election, even when there were still a perimeter of crisis between Obaseki and Adam Oshomole's group. So what are we talking about? So I will not meddle into things that are not, in reality, are not too plain to the people. We have to look at our indices. Assuming Wike is now in APC and they are making this accusation, assuming he was not in support of the candidate of PDP in 2020, which was the Obaseki, then I would have said, okay, maybe he has used some powers to do that. But he remains a member of the PDP. And the PDP has not said, okay, this is anti-party activities. So who am I to come here and say, no, Wike has gotten it wrong? If he has gotten it wrong or that has happened, then they can challenge it within their own party.
When people raise these concerns, Prof, about this person is related to this individual, this other person has ties to this group and all of that, what does this say about not just Nigeria as a country, but our democracy, our electoral process?
I will come to use myself as an example. I have people who are governors today and maybe ministers and in some high places, but none of them can come here and say they have ever come to their office for anything. But those who know our relationship before this time would think that we see every other day. Will you now use it as an instrument if I am in a certain position or to say those people have some influence on me? Or is that presumption I have influence on them? Because it's just, we are just related by blood. We may not have greeted ourselves for the past years or seen ourselves for the past years or communicated in any way. So if we are cousins does not make you becoming a minister and a resident electoral commissioner, may not make it possible that we have ever communicated. We are related, we are not against that. And I have schoolmates that we have not spoken for, we know we exist, we have seen, and we have not spoken for over 50 years now. Are you saying that means that they have some influence on me or I have some influence on them? So people don't know what is called the social index, the political index, those relativities, social, cultural, political, and the rest, economic. So in business, so let's classify these things to say who are those people that are actually close to this person.
Incidentally, like I mentioned at the top of the discussion a while ago, this group that protested to INEC head office yesterday also left a letter stating clearly their demands. What should be INEC's role? I mean, what should be expected from your own assessment and conviction of INEC at this point in time as far as this issue of the wreck in Ondo State is concerned?
You see, I made mention of something when we started this conversation. I said, unfortunately, the security sector has not been trained on what we call political security. If they have been trained on political securities, these are issues that that unit, that sector of the security arm will have been able to dig out and bring positive informations that states what we are just discussing. And if that arm was there, I think there would have not been any protest. But till we grow to the extent of having what we call political security as an arm of security in the security organizations, we still have to remain calm and see how that will come to play. But we are supposed to have political security. Under political security is electoral security, which will evaluate different organs that has to do with thuggery and other factors and acts of criminalities in the electoral process, and bring up policies and frameworks that can be worked with. But be as it may, we don't have that. If you understand, in New York, just some days ago, there was ballot casting and the rest, and the security arm was already having the information of what to do. But here it is a different ball game, because that session of security is not there. Then in that scenario of sending a letter, to a protest letter to INEC, good. It is the duty of INEC to look at what it is, then look at what the report states. But is it also the duty of INEC to also investigate? No. Suppose that is why I said, suppose we have political security, it will have been their duty to also look deeply into what the accusations, the basis of the protest, the petitions are. I know there is an arm of the SSS or the DSS in INEC, but are they adequately equipped? Are they adequately trained? Have they gotten that retraining of election and political security? The truth is no. So it is the normal training on which everybody have on protection. You don't protect what you don't know. That is just
interesting. Let's move away from the rec factor in Ondo State, and now let's talk about the election itself. Like you and I know, it's an off-cycle election, just like we had in Edo State not too long ago. In the case of Edo, for example, the incumbent governor, who is going to be out of office in a matter of days, was not on the ballots. He was obviously not on the ballot, but his party had a dog in the fight, as they say, in the person of Dr. Aso Ighodalo. Conversely, in those states, the incumbent governor is in the ballots. When you look at these factors, what exactly are what's your sense about it?
Well, Ondo, as I know, has been a state controlled by APC all along. So let me say Ondo is almost an APC state. And you should know APC has been producing the governors for a while now.
Right.
It will actually be very difficult for anybody to just come over to Ondo and said, I want to take over, depending on the body language of the people. Are they ready for critical change? Is there any challenge they are facing that has not been addressed by the present bodies. And if those things are not there, then it will be difficult for anybody to just jump. It's just like you are in your house and the house belongs to you, and somebody is just saying, I want to come and take over the possession of your house. It's a very great fight, unless you just want to give in and said, I'm no longer interested in the house or in the residing in that environment. But for now, they have that major interest, and the sitting governor is the president, is also contesting because we lost they lost the former governor, and he was the deputy and he took over, and now he's the candidate of the APC on this gubernatorial race. I'm very, very sure that the scenario now is the Ondo people still wants to remain on that parallel line, or they are ready to get to another train. So because it's just you are in a train and you want, or another person is saying, come and enter my train. So there is that certitude and uncertainty. Uncertainty that if I'm leaving this train to join the other train, what do I stand to benefit? Is the transport fare lower? Do I trust that train? Do they have a 40 mechanisms? So this should be the thought of every Ondo indigene, because it is very easy for somebody to tell you, I would do better. And you are seeing somebody that is doing maybe not better. So you have that apprehension that if I join this one will tell me I will do better, how am I sure he's going to do better? A very right thinking person will look at the antecedent of the other person, and if the antecedent does not meet the quality of your expectations, because that person is not tested, you would think normally that it is like every other language, political language or so. But one thing is just like a young woman who have a relationship and the relationship did not work, she look at every man to be the same. So also a young man who has tasted a relationship and the relationship did not work the way he felt it would work out, you will look at every woman as the same. So that is what will be happening to every indigene of Ondo right now. But it is left for them to make a choice, because they know their people and they know who is more closer to them. But in my expectation, are you joining the old train or you are going to a new train? Whichever comes is the best for them.
Incidentally, Prof, it will appear that the candidates of the All Progressives Congress, who, by the way, like I mentioned, is also the incumbent governor of the state, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, has a few headwinds to fight if he must win this election on the 16th. For example, you made a passing reference to his late principal, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, blessed memory. We have not forgotten so soon the battle he also had to fight. I mean, he practically had to fight for his political life at that time, because there were forces against him becoming the acting governor while his former boss was ill somewhere in Oyo State. And then he became the substantive governor over time. However, the people, we are told, have not moved past that incident because of their loyalty to the late governor. And as such, they are not in support of him. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, there are also those who believe that the candidate of the PDP is very popular and is on the ground, like they say in politics. How much of a challenge does that pose for Mr. Aiyedatiwa, the incumbent governor of the state?
Well, just as I said, it's a decision of the people. Two, I said here that if you want to leave the train into the other train, you are living with some kind of uncertainty in your mind.
So you should be ready for risk.
Yeah, so you are taking a risk. How much do I know this person? It's just like when you say, this is my friend. And a lot of people has meanings to what friend means. And from psychological research, I make friend to be something that is free relationship, including enemies, navigating directions. That is friend. So you cannot say that. I don't normally say that is my friend, because among them are same enemies. You are navigating the same direction. So when people say you are stabbed at the back, I laugh at it, because when you said a friend, you also say including enemies. It's a free relationship which include enemies. So in this scenario, he has a lot of work to do, even as a sitting governor. It's not that I'm a sitting governor, I'm going home to relax. No, he has a work to do, because there was a video just 2 weeks or so ago I watched where in UK he was being dragged by a woman or so on. So there are these things that happens during politics. And when you are in the corridor of power, a lot of temptations come in, because it's just an angular thing. This is the shape of an angle, which from the bottom is wide, and as you are going up, it becomes trimmed down till it gets to an edge. Who gets to that edge? Everybody wants to be number one. So if you want to become the number one, what will you do? You have to. So the other people who are among the gladiators, I call them gladiators, they are also trying to see how they climb that angle to the peak of the angle. So it is left still the people choice who is closer to us. There are simple dynamics that makes them closer to you. Are you closer to the people? It's not just getting a big name, but how much have you done to be close to the people? People, I used to say, see people say Abuja politician. Good. Why do they say Abuja politician? You are in Abuja for 3 years plus, and you go back to contest. The people don't even know you. You go and spend time with the people during the period of campaign. But if you are a grassroots politician, because people are getting more aware, more knowledgeable, more sensitized to know that this is not where we want to go, because this person just come in and breathe out. This person has been here with us. He experienced our pain, he felt it, he sympathized with us, he has empathy on us. But so those kind of awareness, and politics is for the people. So they're also looking at who do we trust. Have you made them believe in you? Because it starts with people believing in you, having some kind of confidence in you before they can say they trust you. So you should also know that giving you a vote is an act of trust. And it is your responsibility to also pay back. I'm not giving trust because of anything. It's also because I know you are going to pay back that trust. So it's trust given and taken.
Like a two-way traffic.
Yeah, it's not just one way. So it makes you to stay in your home when you come back and you said, I hope, madam, there was anything for us in the house. They said, no, there is something. I have done this, I have done that. And you appreciate it more as a man. And maybe when your wife is not around, before she comes in, you just say, no, I have done this, I have done that. There's this smile in the face. So if you are a politician and they gave you that trust, they accord you, you should be able to know that service must be delivered. Because you are the servant of the people. That is what we should know. That you are a servant of the people because they entrust everything to you. They gave you their life. They are citizens, and their human right is covered as the chief security officer of the state. Their businesses and economic is in your palm. Their political agitation, ideology, policies, acts are within you. The crime, environmental, security processes are under your privy. Industrial security is under your privy. Everything is under your privy within the state. So you have to come out and say, this is the service I am going to deliver. You are not a lord over them. Most of our people look at it that it is a process to lord over the people. Whereas you came in through the people. If everybody decides to sleep at home, you will not be where you are. Because your vote alone and that of your wife and children will not make you a governor or an executive of a state. So you should know that you made some commitment, you made some promises, and you have to fulfill them because it's an obligation.
All right, and the final note as we leave now, you have mentioned the term political security a couple of times in the course of this conversation. You recall that during the last local government election in Rivers State, policemen were not deployed. Some people say it was for political reasons. That election was conducted without the traditional presence of police, so we have the conventional police presence on the ground. There's now the school of thought that, who knows, maybe it's time we took a look at the possibility of not deploying police for election. Maybe we need to devise a different means, a strategy that is altogether different for securing an electoral process, for providing security on election day instead of deploying police as we have had for decades in this country. What was your thoughts in that direction?
I have spoken about this and presented papers about this many a times, that if we have trained a setup of the intelligence on political security, we don't need any arm-carrying police or whatever on election days. Because within the wards where these polling booths are placed, everybody knows each other. So have we been able to be trained on grassroots policing, neighborhood policing? No. We jump to community policing, which is a wider area, but that is not a discussion for today. So if you look at it, anybody coming for the election, because there is a restriction of movement within some hours, it is somebody known within the locality. You can't have live another locality to another locality on a day set aside for election where there is no movement. So they know each other. So if you allow it to be, that is not, politics is no longer a lucrative business, and you have been able to train certain members who are trained on political security, then there will be no need for those crises. There is also engineering security or technological security that has to do with the election. So I can tell you that, okay, I will be sitting here in Abuja and I can monitor what is happening in a larger in Ondo State, for example, or in Ikole. So, but how many people have this kind of technology, and how have we been able to deploy it? Right. The answer is no. So you can actually have a violent-free election in Nigeria, because what I just do is to play out what has happened in one of those polling booths without necessarily going there. But we are not set to get there yet.
That's quite interesting. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Professor Ibrahim Abubakar, for coming to share with us this morning. I've been speaking with Professor Ibrahim Abubakar, his global television, political and security analyst, taking our time to look at the developments coming out of Ondo State in light of the gubernatorial election scheduled for the 16th of November. Kikalama Okere, our own correspondent, is on the ground there, bringing us bit by bit information as to how the whole event is unfolding into the D-Day, which is on the 16th of November, and under the Global Television will also open its live studios to bring you a very critical analysis of the development and, of course, where the whole event is heading. We're taking a quick break. When we return, we'll turn our attention to value-added tax and what 19 northern governors are now saying about this new move by the President Bola Tinubu-led administration.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Thank you so very much, everyone, for staying with us still on the program. Let's turn our attention to issues around the value-added tax, which has been on for a while, but in recent times, particularly in the last few days, we're seeing a whole new level of debates in this regard. Now I'm joined by finance expert Haruna Brimo to help us find perspectives and contexts in this conversation. First of all, Haruna, I would like to say a big thank you to you because I understand it's a very busy day, but here you are on the program. Let's talk about how we got to this new level of value-added tax. Before now, they said, well, the International Monetary Fund wants Nigeria to move VAT from 7.5% to 10%. But here, now we're beginning to hear luxury tax issue. We're beginning to hear, how that the 19 state governors are not comfortable with this new VAT move by the government. What exactly is this issue?
First of all, let's deconstruct and debunk the IMF aspect of this whole issue. That is demeaning to us as a country, and it's an insult to the sensibility of Nigerians. If we now assume that our fiscal framework can only be directed or molded or advised to be constructed by the whims and caprices of the World Bank and IMF. There was nowhere across any fora or a write-up or through any form of correspondence where the IMF advised the Nigerian government to move its VAT rate from 7.5% to 10%. The proposed, we're still having a VAT of 7.5% even as we speak.
Right.
The proposed VAT increase to 10% is all embedded in the proposed comprehensive tax reform bill that is with the National Assembly at the moment. I don't know why we tend to blow things out of proportion. We sensationalize topical and very important issues that need a serious, intelligent engagement for the growth and development of Nigeria. What led to the tax reform? Nobody is talking about the withholding tax. We're just emphasizing on VAT. Why? Nobody is talking about the company income tax. Nobody is talking about the many benefits embedded in the personal income tax, the reliefs and benefits. Nobody talking about the many exemptions created by this government to encourage SMEs for the company income tax and businesses to grow. Why are we politicizing the VAT aspect, which is just an aspect of the total tax reform? The tax reform was broken down into four aspects, talking about the fiscal side of it, where we are speaking about the derivative, regarding the VAT derivative now. We have the total tax administration, which is the legal framework that guides the tax administration. We have the changing of name from the Federal Revenue to the National Revenue, Nigerian Revenue Service. We have the former joint tax bill that is now going to be changed to flow with the whole tax reform arrangements. And this whole thing is all encompassing. And here we are debating and building narratives. Nobody is talking about the fact that the new tax regime will encourage businesses that are having turnover of less than 25 million not to pay taxes. They'll be exempted from taxes. Even inside the VAT, why are we talking about the derivative aspect of the VAT? What of the VAT input in the proposed tax reform? The VAT input side is total 100% relief for VAT payers, which means because normally you deduct your VAT input from your VAT output.
Right.
The difference is what you charge the rate on. But right now, imagine you have 7.5% as rate. You calculate your VAT input to be 17 naira, and your total VAT output is 100 naira. Normally, you deduct 17 naira for 100 naira. You deduct 7.5% of your input, remove it from your output, and you charge your 7.5%. But right now, you have full exemption full relief of 100% on your input. So instead of 75% of your 70 naira, you're going to be deducted full 70 naira. Do you understand? So you are just only going to charge the VAT on the 30 naira difference. The difference between 70 and 100 naira. Is that not a huge relief to the system, to businesses to grow? But they are now saying to still make it balance a little, you pep the rate up. Because that relief that will be granted 100% is a loss to government revenue. But pepping up the rates to 10%, which is 2.5% different, will still create a balancing edge. You understand? A revenue for the government.
So
nobody talks about that.
Right.
Now the sharing is what they are crying. I was on this. I was on this station a few weeks ago.
On Business Point.
Exactly. When I talked about the fact that everybody is blaming the federal government, this old VAT that they are collecting, the state are the one benefiting from it. The state and local government, they benefit from the VAT collected by federal government. The federal government only assess 15% of the total revenue from VAT. Yet this same state government have not been able to prove to Nigerians what they be doing with the money. Now that the derivatives, because there has been disparity in the derivative, because VAT is collected from point of remittance. The states that is being remitted, before now, the derivative formula is that the remitting states where this VAT is being remitted benefit more from where the whatever is vatable is being produced. Imagine a situation whereby in my state we produce an agricultural product, and in the new tax regime, agricultural products, pharmaceuticals, medical, they are exempted from VAT. From point of production now, I'm not, but the states where I'm producing is not benefiting from it. But where consumption is taking place, because VAT is on consumption. Water, for example, bottled water is exempted for point of production, but where it's consumed in an hotel, in a restaurant, it's VATed. And if you take it across from your state to another state, the benefiting state is going to be the other states, while the production state is benefiting zero. So it's not limited to the north. It has been a disparity that has been affecting the 6 geopolitical zones.
But that raises a question, Haruna.
So the question now is
why are these governors concerned? Why are they so concerned?
Because they are not, because they have to compensate. That's why I just told you, they are crying foul for nothing. Because the new regime, the fiscal reform that is being driven by this tax reform, is going to give almost 80 to 70% of Nigeria tax revenue to the state governors, so that the citizens, the federal government, want to put the responsibility to the regional sub-regional states. You understand? I keep saying it on this program that to drive an economy, the sub-regional states need to work. If they are not working, the economy of Nigeria will not grow. And their complaint has been that the chunk of the revenue is settled in the central government. That is why they, the states, are handicapped, even when they have not been able to account or transparently utilize what they be collecting since. So right now, the reverse is becoming the case. Let's change the derivative formula. Let those states that have capacity to produce earn more. So it's a wake-up call on those states that are crying foul now to be productive, so that they will earn more. Because right now, the derivative formula for the VAT sharing, VAT collection sharing, is now saying that both for point of consumption and point of production will benefit.
Let me ask you this quickly.
If Dangote headquarters is in Lagos, and is producing in Ogun State, but its headquarters is in Lagos, all the books, the records are in Lagos. Before, the total VAT output will be chargeable and received in Lagos State. So during the sharing, Lagos State will benefit more than Ogun State in the VAT arrangement. Because Ogun just consume. You understand? But in this arrangement now, everybody, every state, both the production, the producing state from where this product are being produced that are vatable, and state where the services, consumption and services is being consumed of the product, will all now benefit.
Okay, so if you say these northern governors are crying foul,
it's wrong. I think it's out of they need to engage the fiscal reform committee that proposed the tax reform. They really need to engage them, because from what we have seen, and they need to engage experts too to really put them through and not politicize this, because it's not only it's not affecting them alone. Before now, the way what they are complaining about now, other states are also complaining about it.
You know, the reason is we're saying.
Do you know how many oil companies that has their headquarters in Lagos?
Right.
And their operations are in Niger Delta.
The Niger Delta region.
And the point of remittance of that is Lagos. So the South supposed to be the biggest region affected before now. Negatively. We're supposed to be the one crying foul. You understand?
So in the event that these...
Just look at the IGRO of Rivers State with all the oil companies there. All they collect is a state. They collect states related with all the taxes and pay from these companies. Because the headquarters of these companies are in Lagos.
So Lagos enjoys more.
Exactly. Look at the latest report. Where Edo State IGRO is even number 6 in the federation. Look at where Rivers State is. Rivers State is the poorest in the South region.
All right, let's talk about this whole, the proposal that is now in front of the National Assembly.
Yeah.
By the time it goes through, regardless of who feels comfortable with it and who doesn't, for example, what does it mean for small and medium-scale businesses in this country and workers across Nigeria?
It's there. I just told you that one of the provisions in that reform is talking about eliminating multiple taxations.
Right.
We're going to be having a unified tax system whereby the state revenue boards, inland revenue collection agencies will all now be working in consolidating revenue with the National Revenue Service or Nigerian Revenue, whichever name it is called. We're now having a consolidated revenue-based arrangement, tax collection system. So issue of multiple taxation does not arise anymore, where a small business is being affected with all sorts of tax, including local government. I think early this year or late last year, we had all tax consultants. We had some stakeholders meeting in Abuja with the FCT. I think Wiki was represented by Senator Aduda in that meeting. These were all part of the things, all our suggestions to the larger, this fiscal reform committee. Everything is all going to be consolidated. To have, if you see, from forest to tax system, we are driving fiscal consolidation. Forest, I'm talking of foreign exchange. We're now driving a unified foreign exchange system. The Nigerian economy have not had this kind of robust and holistic reform in the last 43 years, economically. Hence, we are having the seemingly immediate backlash now, like hardship and all that. But the long-term effect is going to actually open up the system. For the first time, the true federalism and the fiscal federalism Nigerians yearn for, they're going to enjoy it. Where the power, economic power to drive the system will be relinquished to the state and the local government. By so doing, the local government will not have any excuse why it's not building, providing pipe waters, connecting the local government roads, opening up the rural economies, and the state too, building strong infrastructure that can crystallize and catalyze the real economic growth. And on the long run, what the federal government only need to do is to now aggregate, which is the macroeconomics, give fiscal direction to the whole country. So the tax reform is going to benefit, it's going to cut across, even for the pay as you earn. A lot of reliefs have been created. If you look where also the relief of under the Personal Income Tax Act, you get family reliefs. There are a lot of assumptions or reliefs that are being enjoyed by the elite before under the Personal Income Tax Act. Some of those things have been reversed because the tax has become more progressive. Progressive in the sense that those who earn more in the system should pay more taxes, not taxing the burdened citizen again.
So that's the reason, I guess, we have this introduction of the tax on luxury goods.
Before now, how many states in Nigeria, how do we collect our CGT? The CGT administration in Nigeria, capital gain tax administration, are very poor and low. A lot of capital project assets, dealings, real estate, capital goods that involve huge billions of transactions goes without remittance of taxes charged on them.
Who or what do we blame for that?
No, that's what I'm saying. We're not blaming anybody. But right now,
we're saying it needs to be corrected.
Yes. A whole lot need to be corrected. It's not limited to VAT. We have a withholding tax system.
But how is it? I mean, I need you to talk to us about this for the benefit of our viewers this morning. How is it that every time we talk about this set of policies, as it has to do with something like tax, for example, even experts like yourself, I've seen many of them on and off television, would say, look, it's part of the preconditions that the IMF or the World Bank or some of these institutions are presenting to the government prior to making facility available to them.
It's a two-way thing. It's erroneous assumption. It's very, very erroneous, and I don't think any expert or professional would just sit somewhere and be saying that what the IMF owe you as your creditor is your capacity to pay. So if you not tell them that you have enough IGRO or you have enough sources of IGRO, that they are not the one that are telling you that. If you are giving me a facility as a risk management officer, you will ask me for some collateral, or how do you intend to pay these debts? If I now decide to tell you I'm going to dispose one of my car, if need be, or I have social source of revenue, I have multiple sources of income to be able, and you have assessed it, you see that is such a claim is viable enough, then you will give me the facility. The IMF did not give you precondition to kill your citizens or to create economic hardship for your citizens because they want to give you loan. First of all, this loan is also for the development of Nigeria. IMF only asks for how viable is your economy? How do you want to strengthen? How has your economy be strengthened enough? Are you within the threshold? Because borrowing, we have the debt to GDP ratio. If the debt to GDP level is threatened, IMF will not care if you are telling them you will increase tax to 100%. Well, that means your gross domestic product, your capacity to grow domestically is very low compared to the money, the debt you are already owing. You will not be able to service those debts, because if we are using almost 90% of our revenue to drive debt services, that's a risk to IMF on its own. These are some of the critical issues that IMF look out for. Debt to GDP
ratio, right?
Yeah, not about a precondition of asking you to pay taxes or increase your tax level. But in the norm, if you look at it holistically in Africa and even in West Africa, the tax bracket in Nigeria is still wide. We've not even covered up to half because we are driving a luggage economy.
A luggage economy?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
An economy that relies on natural resources to survive. We feel we have sources of revenue and income. Tax is supposed to be a source of revenue. It's a compulsory payment from the citizenry. It's mandatory, dutiful, and responsibility driven. Expected as a patriotic citizen that is working or own a business. It's not negotiable, but at the same time, it's expected that the leaders will use it well to drive the economy, build infrastructure for me, to provide social services for me to enjoy that is paying it. That is ceteris paribus. All things being equal.
Yes, right.
But in an economy like ours, where we have oil as a natural resources, imagine countries without natural resources. Or they go around, some of these developed countries in Europe and even UK, how many resources do they have? So they tax their citizens well, and the citizens see what they are using the taxes to do. You understand? But in our case here, we rely more on oil revenue. What we can generate from oil revenue surpasses any expectations from taxes. So over the years, they need to actually expand our tax frontiers has been very low. You understand? But with the backlash in the oil market, oil deal, oil business, and the inability for us to meet up a whole lot, especially sustaining subsidy that has eaten deep in the system in our government coffers, we now begin to look inward. How can we strengthen our tax regime, tax system? in the last, since the beginning of this year, most of the monies that have been saved, that you see the federal government FAC allocation going into trillions, month in, month out, it's as a result of expanded fiscal measures taken by the government, not necessarily from crude oil.
Let's talk about something else. You talked about government trying to open up the space, government making efforts to, as it were, expand the tax nets to bring in more people to get to pay tax, especially, like you mentioned, CGT, capital gain tax, for example, and a few other things, luxury goods as well, and things like that. In the days of former President Muhammadu Buhari, we saw what that government, that administration tried to do. We saw how former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo moved around this country, all in the bid to ensuring that taxes were not only paid, but that more people, especially within the informal sector, were brought in. As a matter of fact, there was a time we had a 9-month window for people who had been evading taxes the whole time to
talk about it.
Exactly, to be quote unquote pardoned and then turn a new leaf, so to speak, and things like that. First, have these efforts paid off?
Yes, it has to some extent, and with the new tax reform, if you look at the way I'm talking about the second part of the tax reform, talking about the legal administration of tax, there are provisions there. We don't need to, with the bill is with National Assembly, we can't really dwell on it now. There are provisions, the legal provisions on how to prosecute and legally handle areas of tax evasion, tax avoidance, and underpayment and whatever it is. So it's an improvement upon what
has been achieved.
Exactly. So that one was just like a fast-track approach to mop up some money. Okay, you pay this. If you quickly pay within this period,
we write off
whatever. You understand? It's just a deal for that moment, for that particular period of time. But it's good that with the tax reform now, we are legalizing everything, and the capacity to implement it should be the one to worry. Should be what is going to should be the political will to drive it, implement these policies. And the bureaucracy from the federal inland revenue is now going to be a national revenue service. You know, dealing with about 36 states, several ranks of local government, and the FCT. You understand? You understand?
Right.
And even the federal government taxes, collecting or managing or and all that. So they will need to get equipped themselves, manpower-wise, you know, and drive transparency in collection, not just competence, credibility and integrity is the watchword. Most of what has been going on, some of this tax evasion and tax whatever, the people from FRS are also culprits.
It seems like quite a complicated situation. But let's take a quick break now. We're back real quick to wrap it up on this conversation. Do stay with us. So Haruna, I'd like us to talk about this other issue. I mean, you were talking about how that one of the things this set of reforms with regards to the tax regime in this country will ultimately accomplish is to ensure that subnationals become more robust and vibrant, which makes a lot of sense economically and otherwise. But I spoke with a handful of academics a couple of years ago about these same tax issues, and they said that every time we talk about multiple taxation, it's not so much about taxing as it is about levying, especially at the local government level.
What is levy? What is tax?
Because they are saying that when you talk about taxes, for example, you're talking about a percentage of revenue from whether it's a small business, medium scale, or large scale.
The definition of tax is a compulsory levy.
Oh, but I'm going to come to that in a bit.
Right.
But quite frankly, what they're saying is that even if you say we have been able to streamline the tax system in this country, you are still going to have all of these plethora of levies coming from the local government. I also to talk about how this affects businesses, because we must ensure that whatever we do ultimately does not stifle the survival of businesses.
Yeah, the unification of the tax administration, which is the consolidation that is embedded in the proposed tax reform bill, will take care of a lot of that. The plethora of all kind of levies will eliminate itself, whereby you now know what to pay. And once you pay, you know you have paid everything. Not this one coming with a signboard levy, hand washing levy, generator levy, different levy, all sorts of levies. You understand? By the time you are well assessed as a small business owner, you know what to pay, and you pay it once and for all. If you eliminate the multiple taxation, because the local government, the state government, they are all parts, they are being carried along. These tax reforms will be domesticated across the state, of course, across board. That's why it's going to be driving, because you still need the state inland revenue boards and the local government to work together to drive the consolidated tax revenue we are talking about. So everything, and that alone is going to save a lot for the SMEs.
We're going to be done in a few minutes, but let's talk about the gap in tax education for citizens, because ultimately this is about citizens. This is for citizens.
I think it's more of apathy.
As of today, it appears Nigerians are either, of course, there's the apathy against tax or paying taxes, but there's also the fact that, I mean, you just mentioned a couple of taxes here, withholding tax, personal income tax, and so on and so forth.
Tax.
Yes, some persons have either never heard these terms in their lives, exactly, or they don't have much of an idea how it works and things like that. How much of work do we need to do to enlighten our people about taxes?
Yeah, the government needs to do more. Also, more enlightenment for the citizens to see that tax is a responsibility. In the sane climb, sorry to use the word sane, we are also sane in developed economies. Nobody bothers you. There's what is called self-assessment.
Right.
At the end of the month, you get your tax. Every house has a tax consultant or a tax administrator they pay to come and help them fill their self-assessment form. You assess yourself with the principle of oberima fide, utmost good faith, because you're going to own up everything to the government.
Right.
Now these are your income for the month, because the government also have a system of seeing that everything you have declared is the right thing, is the correct thing, because you have an automated payroll system. If you are doing 2 jobs, they know where your incomes are coming from. So they know even some of the taxes has already been deducted at source. Like your pay is removed at source. Remember, pay is different from personal income tax.
Right.
It's just an aspect of personal income. It's an income for you. You may have other sources of income which you need to declare. And some of the taxes, things that you have also enjoyed, that, for example, going to a restaurant and be charged VAT, I've bought a television and I've already paid. For the phone I bought, for the accessory I'm using, for the television or electronics, whatever AC that I'm buying, there's already an aspect of VAT that is embedded in that. It's called sales tax. These are my tax credits. So at the end of the month, you calculate those things that you have bought. What is the rate? Your tax consultant will help you out. What is the rate of taxes that is attracted to those items? They are your tax credits. You now nil it off for whatever tax you are supposed to pay to the government. That is a very good tax system. So you don't feel shortchanged. You will be happy to pay to the government, and in return, the government, you will see what the government is actually using it. That you need to drive security, providing security for you, building infrastructure, good road network, education is there.
All of which are not the case in Nigeria.
That's why I said there's a disconnect between the taxpayers and the government. The responsibility here, in as much as we need to pay as citizens, the government also need to act. Act in a way that will convince us. We are having a suspicious relationship
with government.
Yes, between the taxpayers and the government. Everybody, they suspect each other. This money I'm able to pay now, what are they using it for? Even those even collecting the taxes, even at the local government, especially those levies, they don't even remit to the right coffers or the remit parts.
Let's talk about.
These are some of the reasons why this tax reform is needed. Because when you give these things legal framework, the implementation process, somebody can now fully implement it when you break it.
Right. Because there will be a law.
Exactly.
You mentioned developed economies a while ago. For example, in the US and across Europe, you hear about things like tax breaks, you hear about tax returns. Every year is like a cycle that happens a lot.
You must file your return.
Will these sweeping policies, as they are said to be, resolve all of these issues in the case of Nigeria, for example?
We are going to gradually go into that, where every working class Nigeria will be expected to make his annual returns to the nearest tax office. you must make it.
Compulsory.
Yes, it will get to that. But we have to start. This tax reform is revolutionary.
Let's believe so, because as of today, we still have businesses. Some people have said do not remit VAT, for example. We have businesses that said to collect taxes. On behalf of employees, companies, they do not remit. Many of those criminal infractions. Yes.
Yeah, time to time, we are like our firm, our tax firm is also a consultant, one of the consultants to the FCT in that regard. Time to time, the FCT, IRS, Inland Revenue, they recruit and they engage a tax consultants to go
also look into these issues.
To go and do tax audit across, and we recover a lot of millions. The employers deduct taxes in pay from salaries of employees for years, and they don't remit it. And when some remit, they under remit.
And these are supposed to be crimes, not
of course.
All right, a lot to be talked about this issue. Like you mentioned, the bill is in front of the National Assembly, so hopefully when it's passed, whether in whole or in parts, I'm sure we'll get more opportunities to talk about these issues as they unfold. Thank you so very much. I've been talking with Haruna Brimo, he's a finance expert. That's what we're living in today, everyone. But do remember that all of the opinions or the views shared on our programs are the opinions of our guests, and we respect those opinions very well. Queen Agaba, myself, and the entire team here say a big thank you to you for watching Global Morning today. I am Liag Mofwege. Coming up at the top of the hour is Talk Sports with Anthony Momodu. Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient. Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle as to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.